Hello, hello, everyone out there. This is the Kiro Weekly Show. I am Eric. I am not Darko. I probably look a little different than the host that we had for the last few weeks, but I'm really excited here to talk all about Kiro with everyone here. And also, I have my co-host today, Candace. How you doing?
Great. I'm very excited to be here on this Kiro live stream show.
Awesome. So I thought a great way to start is just give a little introduction to the audience who may not know us yet, a little bit about ourselves, what we do. Candace, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So my name is Candace Bohannon. I am a specialist solutions architect working on Kiro and Q Developer. So most of what I do, most of the day, is working with customers and helping them to use Kiro and QDev to the maximum. So it's a really fun job. I also get to build and play around quite a bit. So excited to be on the show and show you guys some of my favorite things about Kiro.
Let me ask you, what is QDev for those who are just only heard of Kiro?
Sure. Q Developer is, it's pretty similar to Kiro actually, but my favorite way to use it is within the CLI. So the Q Developer CLI is like your coding assistant just right there in the terminal. We also have plugins for IDEs, popular IDEs, such as VS Code. So I tend to use it within VS Code and the CLI, but I'll actually show you. I use Kiro alongside QDev actually, so that I can have the best of all the worlds when I'm doing my development.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you can actually, I've done this before, to have Kiro as your AI IDE, but then open up Q CLI in your chat and then actually kind of use both at the same time, right?
Exactly. That's the way I like to do it, actually. I love the CLI. I say this to my customers. It makes me feel powerful to be working in the terminal. I don't know what it is about it, but I just feel cool or something. Nerdy cool. I don't know.
No, that's awesome. And so if you have questions, we're a live show. We love to stop and answer questions. Leave a question in the chat. We're trying to monitor them all. We're live on a few different platforms right now, but we'll get to it and we'll answer it. So you ask questions on Kiro or Q, Amazon Q. We'll try to do our best. And if we can't answer it, we'll at least get you in the right direction of where to go to get that answered. Awesome. So with that said, I am Eric. I'm Eric Hanchett. I am a senior developer advocate for AWS. I have been at the company for 4.5 years. I just love technology. I love I love playing around with like new tech that comes out and new things that are being released. So I have a front end engineering background, but I did Java development for several years. I actually was on the Amplify team. If you remember, I did the front end and web mobile dev hour for a couple of years. Or at least a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. So that was a Twitch show that we had here on the AWS Twitch channel, branded channel. So I'm really glad that today I can come in here and talk to you guys about some Kiro and what's happening in that world. And if you don't know, Amplify was and still is, it's a tool for front end and full stack developers to create applications. So it has some really nice tooling to, it's some tools built on top of CDK to host your website, to talk to AWS services and everything like that. But today we are going to be focusing on Kiro. Am I missing anything, Candace?
No, I don't think so. Not yet. Once we start getting some questions in, we can go down all kinds of rabbit holes. But this is great. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and feel free in the chat. Let us know where you're from and what you're up to today. Love to hear that as well. So I have been, since launch, if you've been watching this show every week, we've been going and having many different guests on and talking about all the cool things that have been happening. But I was on the original launch team for Kiro, and it's so crazy to see how quickly and how amazingly this community, how this project is blown up to just having so many people interested in it. If you don't know, in the first few weeks, in the first few days of releasing Kiro, we had so much interest that we had to set up a wait list because we couldn't get everybody in at the same time. So if you don't know, Kiro's in developer preview right now, meaning that we're just getting as much information as we can, making it better every day. I know, Candace, you've been talking to customers, getting lots of feedback too, right?
Absolutely. Every day. Yeah.
And believe me, we listen to all the feedback. We look at Reddit threads. We look at X threads, Blue Sky. We get all the information, and we've been listening to that in Discord, which is probably one of the best ways to give us feedback. And we've been using that to help really make our product better.
In fact, so people were asking me just the other day, like, what do you have in the pipeline? Are you still improving Kiro? And I'm like, yes, we absolutely are. And I am dropping in the Discord link here in YouTube, and I'm hoping that I'm getting it in the right spot here in Twitch as well. So join that Discord and let us know what you think. Drop stuff in the chat here, and we'll do our best to answer. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We have one question here. Is Kiro internal accessible to internal employers and is on a wait list? Do you want to take that, Candace?
Yeah, so it is, we are working through the wait list. Let's say that. It is internally accessible to Amazon AWS employees as well as our customers. And of course, we are customer obsessed. So we really want to make sure that our customers get through that wait list. So if you're not already signed up, go to kiro.dev. And there's a very easy to find waitlist button. Just click that and we'll try our best to get you through.
Yeah, in fact, like before Kiro came out, we had hundreds, thousands of engineers working at AWS, test it out, go through it, give feedback, recommendations. We have senior engineers, senior principal engineers that were going through it. So we had lots of feedback even before we launched. And so many internal employees have access to it. But we really want to make sure that it makes sense for people to use it internally and externally, that it solves use cases. And that's why we're so customer obsessed. Looks like we have some people from Perth, Australia. Awesome. Thank you for joining. That's great. So we, before we get jumped onto this live stream, me and Candace talked, and we have a little bit of a schedule that we're going to follow. And so the first thing I want to talk about is a blog post I wrote. So let me present my screen. Oh, Cameroon. That's nice. Now, I have been having a little bit of problems with my screen sharing. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so here is the coursekiro.dev website. And this is the join waitlist button that Candace just mentioned. Oh, Poland here. Awesome. Thank you, Candace, for posting the link to the chat. So here is, of course, check out kiro.dev to join the waitlist. But here's the blog post that I created. And so I've been hearing a lot of people using Kiro. Just want to know, like, what are the best practices, how to use Kiro, some of the tips. Like I said before, we've had hundreds, thousands of internal employees test out Kiro. We've had lots and lots of external customers give us feedback in our Discord. Candace has talked to many of them one-on-one, I'm sure. And so I've been trying to collect like a little bit of feedback, little tips in here and there of what and how to use Kiro. And also, I think many people know this. We have a best practices guide directly in kiro.dev, which I ended up taking a few of these best practices and moving them to my tips. I didn't take them all, but I did that, and I did link to it. Oh, looks like we have a few other people. Lots of really, give a shout out to, there's a lot of community members, especially in our Discord channel, that have done amazing work with the community. Gusto being one of them. And Corsali, I'll give a shout out to him, another developer advocate in our org. So I did take a few of these tips and I kind of repurposed them. And then I also found a few others. So let me add this to the chat in case people want to look at this best practices. And these are evolving too. So here are the 8 tips that I came up with. And, everybody loves lists. I know. Do you love lists, Candace?
Yes, I'm a bullet journal fanatic. I always have a list, lots of lists.
I do too. I'm one of those people that start my work and I write lists of things I want to do for the day and I check them off and then I feel like I've accomplished something.
Exactly.
But I definitely like lists in my blog post. So I kind of broke it up into different sections. You can kind of take a look at here of what they are. So I gave some tips on model context protocol and how you do integrate that, steering, context, and specs. Now, if you watched this show last week, Brian Beach, amazing essay, gave some tips on MCP. I'll probably go over a little bit of those again, but I want to give him credit. He did a great job with Darko maybe 2 weeks ago when we last time we had the show. But here are a few of my, he didn't mention this, here are a few of my favorite MCP servers. So of course, model context protocol, it's the way essentially large language models can talk to different tools, and MCP is a great way to do that. So there's actually a video too, if you look in our YouTube channel, I'll try to find it, where I also list some MCP servers I like. But I've been using Context 7 a lot, which is a great up-to-date documentation LLMs for AI code editors. The GitHub MCP server, Brave Search, all have been really some of my favorites going forward. And then, of course, you can use Kiro for anything you want, like out there. That's why we didn't call it AWS Kiro. This is just Kiro. But if you like and you are an AWS fan, or you have AWS services, we do have AWS documentation and the Cloud Control API MCP server. And those are somewhat of my favorite. I can give a little demo. Candice, do you have some favorites or ones you've used?
So I love the diagrams, the AWS diagram MCP. And I do lean into the AWS stack, of course, but I really love the diagram one, and that's what I'll show in my demo coming up. And then the one, I think it's called Knowledge Base. I think that's the one, the AWS Knowledge MCP server, because not only does it connect to the user guides and whatnot, it also connects into the new blogs. So I think that's really helpful to stay up to date.
Yes, I love that documentation. I think it's the same one I'm talking about here. This AWS documentation. The documentation MCP server, right? This is the one you're using?
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
Yes. So let me show you just kind of what that looks like in Kiro. And yeah, I have some chat here I'm just reading right now.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Ramsey says he created his own MCP server for the hackathon. Oops. I'll get this one. Maybe I see that's really neat.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a question for you.
Allison, haven't heard from you in a while. Yeah, the pricing one is also super cool. I have that one pulled up. I'm going to ping you on Slack when we're done here. The pricing one is neat because you can actually get an assessment or an estimate of the pricing before you actually deploy. Very cool.
No, I love that. That's really neat. Oh, there's a question here. Let me stop for a second. My hackathon project ended prematurely because my country Cameroon wasn't available on the checkout page, so I couldn't purchase a package. If there's a solution for users in the country is not available on the checkout page, subscribe. I don't know. That one's a good. So you shouldn't have to purchase anything for the hackathon. So I'm wondering what this checkout page is. But feel free to message me afterwards. We'll follow up to see if we can try to figure out what's happening. Yeah. And I'm available on all socials at ERIKCH. Okay, I think. Oh, there's another question here
from Bob. Yeah.
Bob, hi. Is there any way to force the agent to use Context 7 by default, because I have to spend extra time telling it to use Context 7 to study the relevant documentation, etc.? There's a couple of strategies I'm thinking about. What do you think, Candice?
Can we probably just add that to the rules file or your steering guide or something like that? When you want your agent, your helper, your assistant to do the same thing again and again, I tend to put it in the rules or steering file. Also, if the assistant is misbehaving, put that in the rules file. Tell them don't do that again, or something to that effect.
Yeah, let me show you. Exactly. I have the same exact idea. So what I do. Well, first, here's my MCP servers. We'll get back to the rules files in a second. But here is the few that I have. I have this movie example one. I was using Agent Core, and I created an MCP server, and I was testing things out. And so it's really nice. Another tip, if you ever, I don't know if you use this, Candice, but MCP remote. So right now, we only support standard I/O for our MCP integration into Kiro. which means it's like runs a line on your command line to do things. But so if you have an external MCP server, there's this really nice tool called MCP Remote where you can basically put in the URL of any sort of server-based MCP, like if it's using streamable HTTP, you can just put it in here. Then you can even put in like headers and bearer tokens and whatever else. So that's a nice thing you can do. But here's the documentation server and also the API server. So I could do something like this. This is my test account. So I'm going to say, please list all the S3 buckets using my MCP server. I usually try to be very explicit using the AWS MCP server. And so now it's going to try to look through. It's going to run a command. It's going to ask me if I want to run it. Say yes. Maybe I'll bump up the font a little bit here. And here it is. Now it shows a bunch of random buckets that I have, Amplify related. This is all like test data. And it gives me information about all of them, which is really nice. I can run commands. And also, one thing I did when I set up this API MCP server is you can put read operations only. So I set it at true, meaning that it's not going to do any mutations. It's not going to like drop anything, delete anything, make changes. So that way I'm just rest assured I can use this just for like pulling up log files, kind of getting information about my app.
That's another best practice that I tend to follow on the tools across the board. I will allow or trust read and getters and things like that, but anything that's writing or executing a bash, I have control issues is sometimes how I say it, and I just want to review it before we're changing stuff. So
this has happened to me the other day. Well, going to the steering files and going back to that idea of like wanting control. You had mentioned like on the last question, like you can add into the rules files, or we're calling steering files here, of different things that you want. So you can say, let's see, we'll call this.
We lost
add. Yeah, I might have to try this in incognito in a minute, but let me share my screen again. So you can add a rules file here, but I'll add things like this. I'll be like, please always use the context 7 to look up documentation. And then I might put something. One thing I noticed too is that Kiro is it wants to edit things. It's like, please let me edit things. Let me help this. Let me fix this for you. And I don't like that. I don't like when I'm saying, hey, can you show me how to do something? And then it starts editing files. So I'll put a prompt in here that says, please always ask me before making any changes or edits.
Yes.
And that way it doesn't try to like automatically make updates and edits for me, because that becomes very annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's like really eager. It's like, please let me help you. Let me help you.
That's exactly how I describe it. It's an eager intern, best intern you've ever had, but you do have to hold them back just a little bit. So Eric, two things. You say, please. Let's talk about politeness with our models, because people ask me a lot about context management and prompt engineering tips. This is what I talk about with my customers a lot. Why do you say please?
I guess I'm just used to it. I'm just used to just trying to be polite and ask it to do things for me. But I guess it's not necessarily needed. And it's just a habit that I have. I think Sam Altman or someone said at one time that like billions of tokens have been used at OpenAI for people always being polite to the AI and using please and thank yous and things like that.
I do it too. I say it's because I'm from Texas and now I live in Minnesota. Nice. But I don't know, especially when it's misbehaving, I'll say please. And I feel like it listens to me a little bit better.
It might.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The other thing that you did about prompting that I just am curious about is you are very explicit about which MCP you wanted it to use. This is also a thing. Sometimes for demos, I'm super generic, and then sometimes I try to be very specific. So anyways, why did you decide to do it that way? What are the pros and cons there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I wrote this as one of the tips in the doc, which I'll bring back over for a second, that and here. So right here, agent steering, but keep in mind, be explicit with your prompts. Be sure to use it MP server. I just, because it can be very ambiguous when you're asking questions and if you have multiple MCP servers, the large language model, and we're using Claude 4 or Claude 3.7 here, may not understand exactly which tool to run. So I just want to make sure that it's running the specific one that I ask, because I don't want it to accidentally run a different one or just try to look something up using its own model that could be out of date. So I just always try to be very explicit. And I think in general, it's a good idea when you're talking to large language models to tell it exactly what you want to do. So there's no ambiguity. It doesn't have to try to figure things out. And that kind of goes back to also adding in some steering files and rules files to make sure that it does what you expect it to do.
Awesome. Agreed. Any of our viewers, if you have some best practices that you want to share, we are all learning from each other. This is such a new space. Drop them in the chat so we can all learn from you.
Looking at the chat here. Good questions here. Are you reviewing submissions? There's nothing in the project page and dev posts. This is, I think there's some questions about the hackathon. And so we are early on in the hackathon. I don't believe they are actually reviewing submissions yet, but just be aware that it is going on and that we'll have more information soon on that. So another chatter saying just started adding in MCP servers to Kiro and other IDs, which really helps. Yeah, definitely, Daryl. It's a great way to just give some more context to your to Kiro or any other AI IDE they're using. All right, let's see here. Let me just look through. So we talked a little bit about the steering files. Brian went through this last time, but just click that generate steering docs button. Very, very helpful. I do this with every one of my projects before I start asking it questions. It just reads it. It's going to be more thorough. It does add a little bit more to the context, but it's just going to understand your project more. Now, I believe yeah, so if you accidentally, like in my case here, I already have this test, and now I don't have the button anymore. You can do Command-Shift-P. I think it's Control-Shift-P. Oops, let me add that back again. I'm going to figure out why the sharing screen disappears, but here's back in. I can do Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P in Windows, and you can put in something like generate. So you can generate the project steering files even if you don't see that button. And then see, like right now, it's going to read the test file and it's going to start generating them. And then you'll get 3 files. Just kind of a quick tip if you didn't know, always make sure that you have those files. Is that what you do, Candace?
I haven't had to go back and redo these very much yet. I live most of my life in Q right now, to be honest. So I generate these the first time. So that's a good tip that I didn't even know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. No problem. And then a nice thing too is you can save the MCP output to steering. We kind of did that a little bit here in the, going back to the app here, where we asked it to use context 7 to look up the documentation. That way it knows to always use this MCP server. And I can even be more explicit here if I wanted to. So I wonder, let's test this out. I don't know if I was explicit enough, but I'm going to close this and ask it, can you show me how do you install Tailwind CSS for with Vite? This is like a pretty popular CSS utility library. And so it should look through the product steering docs and look, okay, cool. It's calling the MCP tool because we told it to use context 7. And now it's going to grab the information, which is nice. So this also could add a little bit of latency. So if you're trying to move fast and it's always causing an MCP file, you may not always want that. But here it is. This is something I always find when I'm using Tailwind CSS. It often gets like the version wrong, but this is definitely the correct version for CSS4. And so if you use something like Tailwind or context 7, it's always going to find the latest documentation on it and how to set it up. This looks good.
Nice.
Oh, let me see here. Brian already been over some of this before. The file matching patterns really, really nice to do. You can always go in, Brian showed this a little bit last time. You can go into this and click the refine button, and it's going to take this and make it look a lot nicer. You can also add this YAML entries at the top to set up exactly how you want it set up, or you can have it only file match in certain files it runs, so it's not always running. Specs, I get a lot of questions on this. I'm sure you do too, Candace, on like, how do I update specs? Typically, the way I feel is specs, it's like they're individual tasks, and then when you're done with them, you're done with them, and you can create new specs. But sometimes you want to go back to previous specs. So you can always go into your designer requirements and update them. And then there's this nice little button that says update tasks. So you can click design requirements, you can update them, you can refine them, and then click update tasks to get the latest information. Do you have anything else? Yeah, you can see now it's now added a bunch more information, and it has this little YAML, and I can add in a bunch of things to it if I need to. I have some questions in chat, but Candace, do you have any other tips on this?
No, I think this is really helpful. And I really like some of these questions and comments coming in from the chat. So let's go there.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I also find it use more active speech, such that this is a great tip.
Yeah.
From Allison, I always find more active speech using such as avoid this instead of don't do this. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Generally expand the task subtask in the MD file myself and add in tests I want.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. Like to your point about the tasks and things, or that your spec files in general, I tend to make them per feature. And then if I notice that something is not fully there in my requirements or something, I might type it in, or I might tell Kiro we need to add these things. And having the subtasks, almost like a Scrum methodology, I think is also really helpful.
I like that. Yes. Let's see. Is there a question here? Okay, I think
this is what I want to talk about. The Rhodium's comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So there are frameworks out there to orchestrate all of these things. I was in a customer meeting yesterday and they said, have you heard of BMAD? And I'm like, no. They're like, but it's what you're saying. So there's something called BMAD, and I don't even remember what it stands for now, but you can just Google it. It's BMAD. He's got a GitHub repo and a video that I'm in the process of watching. But I've started creating custom agents in Q. I know we're on the Kiro special hour, but I've created special custom agents in Q that do these sorts of things. So I have a Jira MCP with a project manager. I have a solution architect. I have a security guardian. I have all of these specialized agent things that I use over in Q to kind of check each other's work and that sort of thing. I don't know what is in our roadmap as far as incorporating those sorts of things in Kiro specifically, but you could implement them in Kiro. So that's what I would say to that. And I think this is a really good, BMAD specifically is the one that I like the most right now, but I think it's a really good approach because you have multiple agents kind of watching each other and double checking the work and things.
Yeah, I love that. I've heard it a lot too. I think really, and we are looking into that. I can't say if we are or we aren't, or where that is, but I've heard that many times. Candace, is like people want specialized agents and profiles, and right now you can kind of tweak that yourself. You could, I imagine, like create a steering file that is for a specific type of person and only include it when you want to be that persona.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see here. Go ahead.
Ramsey was talking about BMAD. That's exactly what was on their mind. So read your mind, buddy.
That's awesome. Sometimes I can't tell if coding with Kiro is improving my speed or not. It feels a lot more black box coding than other assistants unless I click on the follow button. Any tips on that? I added some hooks for checking if func or similar functionality exists before writing a new function file. It would skip the hooks a lot unless I'm added them as context into the chat. My first thought of this is that you can click the follow button and then you can kind of see it like adding the information, and it's like doing real life diffs in front of you, and that's kind of a fun way of It should be, I mean, depending on the question, you're saying it doesn't improve your speed or not. It should be, I mean, if you kind of do everything we're talking about here, have your steering files in place. Maybe you mentioned you even added some hooks in to help you out. And then you're very specific on what you want, unless you're doing more larger features and using the spec driven. I would say it should help you focus in and be quicker. A lot of times too, I do the inside Kiro, you can do the inline chat, and sometimes that's a little bit more helpful. So I'll just highlight a few functions that I need it to look over, and I'll ask a specific question for it, and then it could start iterating over that piece, and that's very, very quick. I know, what else do you have?
Yeah, it kind of comes and goes. It definitely helps you get up and running faster. All of these tools help you get up and running faster, and it also helps me debug better. But then sometimes, since I didn't write all of the code, it takes a minute for me to go back and figure out where the heck that happened. And so I do think there's a little bit of a trade-off, and it's kind of difficult to measure even as far as what kind of productivity gains are you having. So I think it's an interesting question to kind of jump through there. And I believe too that in the most recent Q CLI version, which was just released like on Monday, and so I haven't gotten to play with it because I've been in demos and whatnot, there are some features that they added under, like you can do a / experiment, and it helps explain better how Q got to the answer. So I'm telling you this, I know these are different products, but I'm telling you this because it seems like Kiro and Q follow similar roadmap type of things. So if we've seen that in CLI, I would imagine that we would get some of that type of functionality coming in Kiro.
Yes. Let's answer a couple more, and then Candace, you can jump into your demo. I think, okay. Let's see here. How well does Kiro handle mono repos? I would imagine the steering docs would get massive and might take up most of the context window.
Context management. I think I said that on this call. I say almost the same thing every couple of hours, so I can't remember what I said. But I did say this. Context management and prompt engineering, I think, is some of this. This is the art to this. So yes, as steering docs get bigger, as your rules files get bigger, it takes up your context. And so it's a consideration that you have to make. What I typically tell people to do is, like, depending on how big your repo is, but just start kind of big and ask your assistant to help you understand the key modules that are in there so that you understand at least the key modules, and then kind of, I always do this funnel thing too when I'm talking about this, and then funnel down to smaller pieces of the code that you want to actually change. It does get difficult with all the dependencies and things like that. There's something called SimGraph, I think. I think that's what it's called, that can kind of help you identify. I think it's an MCP that can help you identify those dependencies through your code. But start big so that you get an understanding of all of it, and then break down and focus in on the specific thing that you want to do. That's one of the techniques for managing context with large repos.
Would you recommend they reopen Kiro in each folder of the repo that they want to like narrow down in?
Maybe that could work. That might be a great idea, actually. When I'm using Q, I tend to have multiple CLI, multiple terminals open doing different things. And so if you have an instance focused on the specific thing that you're trying to do, that seems like that would be a good approach.
It's good. Great. Hi from Germany. It's possible to reverse engineer spec and design documents from existing code. Yeah, that's a good question. You could click. That's interesting. Well, I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, I've definitely used, like we saw earlier, used steering files, which analyzes your code and then comes up with the structure, tech, and test, but it doesn't really come up with a spec from it. You would almost have to be like, what was the feature that you wanted the spec from? And then tell Kiro, be like, hey, I added this new feature to add in OAuth. Can you reverse engineer that feature and create a document explaining how it was created? And I'm sure it could do that, but it wouldn't be like added as spec files in your spec document.
Right. I think that's right.
But good question. Okay, I'm defaulting. Here's Gusto. I'm defaulting to other AIEDs precisely for the lack of spec customization Kiro to take advantage of the persona-based approach.
Good
Understood?
to know. Hopefully that helps us escalate that feature through.
Yes, we are listening to feedback, and Gusto knows that. We are trying to make specs even better, and everything we do better. Thank you for loving Kiro so far. Let's see here. I'm still scrolling down. Oh, Allison has another tip. Should we show it on the screen?
Yeah.
One new thing I noticed in my current spec do is its added phases to help split tasks up to incrementally add code features. Agent hooks are great. I use them to commit my code and provide synopsis, perform code audits, have agents all in an MCP server.
Sweet. That's what I'm trying to do with my security guardian, is kind of do that code audits and all of those sorts of things before I check my code in so that I don't do something silly.
Okay, I think we got through everything. Oh, there's one more at the end. Last session, Keto was crashing a couple of times. It was rewiring the same code. Is it fully working now? Sorry, if I'm assuming that's Kiro. There might have been a typo there. If Kiro was crashing on you, we definitely have had many updates. You may want to try to update Kiro to the latest version. But I haven't heard that type of problem, so I believe you should be set okay. But if you do have problems, we do have a Discord channel that Candace had already put in the chat earlier. Let us know. We are monitoring those every day. We have many people looking at those issues. Oh, one comment came in last second. How do you all handle code indexing and symbol researching so Kiro can find what it needs to mod? I don't have the insights on how Kiro works to that level, how it does its code indexing, symbol searching. I know that obviously it's built on the foundation of Visual Studio Code, and then of course we have a long history of working with agentic tools, and we've been creating Q and QCLI and QITE for a long time. So we built tools like this, and we added all that expertise in our engineering team to create Kiro. I don't know if you have any questions or answers on that.
Nope. I think that you did just as great as I could. Yeah.
All right, Candace, do you want to jump in with the demo?
Let me hope to share my screen, a whole window. So what I want to show you today, I'm just going to walk you through a thing that I'm working on right now. I kind of think it needs to be a little bigger. So here's my Kiro that I'm working on a project right now. Let's call this a humble brag. I'm trying to get all of this AWS certifications, and there's one that I just can't get. It's networking. I can't do it. I'm going to keep trying though. So this application is supposed to help me study for it and all of those sorts of things. So what I did the other day, actually, let's start with some of my MCP servers. So you'll see that I have a ton of these pulled up, and mine are all AWS because that's what I know the best. Kiro can work with any cloud provider on-prem. So I sometimes refer to it as the AnyDevs tool. It's not just for AWS. This is just my preference. And in fact, when I asked Kiro how I should deploy this, he suggested other things. And so I could have gone with some other things, but again, AWS just feels a little comfier to me. So I have a ton of these repositories, MCP servers from our AWS Labs GitHub repo. And I think Eric kind of talked about several of these already. But one, you'll see that I do have the pricing one. I think that was Allison that mentioned that one. I do have the pricing one loaded here, as well as a front-end MCP server. I am not a front-end developer. So the fact that I can get a full-featured web app is very exciting to me. But these are some of the things that I kind of need help with as I'm doing my work. But my favorite one, potentially because I am an architect, is this diagram MCP server. So you'll see plenty of things that I've done here, but I asked it to create an architecture diagram for me. So I had it, let's see. can you create an architecture diagram for this app? I'd prefer to see the AWS specific icons. So again, I wasn't super specific. This is why I asked you this question, Eric. But I only have one diagram MCP, so that's probably how Kiro knew what to use there. And you'll see the tools that he used. And eventually he created my, my architecture diagram, which you can see over here. So this is what it looks like, pretty darn small, but you'll see that I tend to go serverless, but I've got a CloudFront, a front end, and a static S3, a static website deployed in S3 bucket. And then just API gateway and a bunch of Lambdas and DynamoDB. So this is what my architecture looks like right now. But actually it doesn't. My architecture right now, I added some new features to it. So I went through a spec flow and I asked Kiro to create a session timer. So once I had my session timer, he goes through and makes our requirements, the design file, and the task list. So that's your typical spec-driven development flow that Kiro does for you, and pauses along the way to say, are these requirements sufficient, and things like that. So what I did this morning, because I'm like such a rebel and hoping for the best, I added new tasks to this after I created my diagram yesterday. So I added a couple of new tasks here. And what I want to do now is create an agent hook to update my diagram based on what's in here. So that's what I want to demo. Hopefully it'll only take a couple minutes. We also mentioned earlier that I use Q inside of Kiro. So I've got Q installed. You can see my extension here. I can access it here. Here I am in my Q CLI because it's powerful. And we're working on some of the problems and the additional functionality before this call. So it is it's a sort of real app that it actually exists over here. I haven't started studying yet because I've been demoing, but you'll see this is my session plan or my training plan. I have a dashboard. You can take practice tests and whatnot. So it's real.
Are you going to release this to the public one day?
Maybe when I finally get through demoing it all the time and it works. It's really cute too. It's got this little mascot that we named Babu in a different live stream. The audience came up with the name, so this is Babu, and he keeps you motivated.
I like that.
Yeah. So what I want to do now, like I said, my architecture diagram is out of date. I implemented a couple more tasks here. So I have some new API endpoints. And so now what I want to do is create an agent hook. So we have my MCP servers. I have just the basic steering files right now, but I wanted to make an agent hook in real time with you. So drum rolls, prayers, cross your fingers. This is what I need from you right now. So when you make an agent hook, they're pretty simple to make, honestly. I just open this up, click a quick little plus button, and we have a few that are built in right here that you can just click. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, update my architecture diagram when new code, I'm going to say it like that, is added. So just my normal natural language. And you'll see when I clicked this go button, now Kiro is thinking about it. And when he's thinking about it, he's also including the steering docs that I had created before. Nothing fancy in there right now, though. So we created my hook, and I actually want to do this on a manual trigger, but you'll see that you can create this or you can execute the hook maybe on a new file. That probably makes sense for this particular one when a file is saved, deleted, I'm going to have it do it on a manual trigger just for demo purposes, but I'd probably pick file created if this was real. And then you can also create or look at the specific paths to watch. So maybe I only want to watch when my backend is updated or something like that. I'm just going to leave that blank for now. And I think now we're all set. So now we have the architecture diagram updater hook. I love the name. And it lives right here. You can see it. And okay, just to show you there's nothing up my sleeve, let's look at this again. What we should get is an extra lambda. This is when we cross our fingers, so don't hold your breath. We should get a new lambda, potentially new dynamo table back here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the shared layer. So we have 6 lambdas on here and 4 dynamo tables. I'm going to click this button. Are we ready? And we're going to see what's going to happen. So I told it to execute this hook, and now Kiro is going to go through and see if there's anything to update in our architecture diagram.
I've never actually done this part where you manually trigger. I'm always like doing it on file save, but this completely makes sense. Like there's some instances you may just want to have a hook run and just trigger it manually.
Yeah, maybe you want to do it like before you check in your code or something. I probably still need something to help me remember that. But I just thought it would be better for a manual update for this, this demo specifically this time.
Yeah. And I see a comment in the chat that says, can you show us how many vibes that costs? LOL.
I think there's a way to do it, but I forgot how. Thank goodness.
we are looking at all sorts of things on how to display that in the future. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. We're fixing the diagram by using the right icon imports. Looks like we're doing the right stuff. We're running.
That's good. That's good. So Gusto also mentioned in the comments while you're doing that, he said that that indexing question he talks a little bit about indexing on project imports and file changes inside Kiro. So there's some stuff that happens for you with Kiro. You don't have to worry about how it indexes, but good question if you're in the chat to read that and answer. He helps answer some more. Get a little more insight in indexing.
I just trust that it works for me. I should probably find out a little bit more about that, though.
Now, I see all these tools. They're just running. So you trusted all those tools before?
Yeah, because these are just lists. So I'm okay. I'm okay with the list and usually the reads and things. It's the writes that I really like to pay attention to.
Yeah, like right now.
Yeah. So we'll do this one. Nothing like a live demo to make you just a little sweaty. Okay. Removing it. Great. It's been saved to our folder. I also really appreciate that afterwards, Kiro gives you a little summary of what happened there. That's helpful, especially if you're not watching it super closely. If I'm really coding, I'm watching it super closely. In live demos, I'm just trying to remember to breathe, So I don't watch it as closely as I maybe should.
Yeah, I always appreciate like it tells you what it did at the end.
Whoa. Definitely updated. So in this, what you'll see happened here, I love a live demo. Oops. This is what we had before, just the back end. And he actually went through and created a ton of additional our front end pieces and our components and things like that. So that's cool. It worked. It worked.
Awesome. I'm glad it worked. I always get that a little nervous, but if it doesn't work, then we can always figure out if it does what happened. But I'm glad it looks okay here. I like someone in the chat saying it's Kiro. Well, anytime you just auto accept things, YOLO mode, you only live once.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I'm so glad that worked. I only practiced one time before I actually did this in real life. So Woo!
Awesome. Like what, I'm really curious. How does the front end MCP server? I'm a huge front end fan. I've been doing front end development and now full stack development for a while, but how does that work?
I don't actually know a ton about it. I'm just like, I need help with this. So I need to have this one up here. But it's supposed to help. Let's pop open a little bit and look at it. Um,
Oh,
and
that's one
maybe,
tool.
yeah, maybe we could also go to, if you go to the AWS Labs /MCP GitHub repo, it explains all of these. Each of the MCPs that they have listed there, there's like 50 now, and we would love for you to contribute as well. It explains a little bit more about what it's doing, how to set it up, and things like that. But for me, I'm much more of a back-end developer. So I use Q and Kiro to build my front end. So this is just, I believe, going to help us with generating the code for those React applications, troubleshooting, other things I'm not good at.
I will say using Kiro to build front ends has never been easier. You can literally, like, I'm a React and I'm a huge Vue.js fan, but I'm okay at CSS, but the design part is not my favorite. And I can be like using CSS, create a dashboard, and it'll just create it with ease.
Yeah.
And I appreciate MCP tools that make it even easier.
Absolutely. Well, cool.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to show, Candace?
That was my thing. Ta-da!
That's awesome. Awesome. So we're still here for another 9 minutes. We can jump back in. Let me share my screen. Sure. If you guys have any questions for Candace or me, feel free to let us know. All right, here's that front end MCP server that I was just asking questions on. So yeah, it gives you comprehensive documentation, modern React application development through the Get React Docs by topic. So this is definitely React focus, it looks like. So if you're using Angular or Vue or anything else, or Astro, you might not want to use this, but this is perfect. Like just to get something up and running. I'll have to try it out. That looks very interesting to me.
I like these sorts of things too, because they help me learn the things. I do have a slight aversion to JavaScript and all the flavors of it. But it helps me learn because it kind of explains as we go through. When I can't figure something out, it explains what's happening, or you can ask questions about it too. So I'm learning as I go.
Yeah, and it says here it uses, yeah, definitely learning. I have been doing that, jumping into a lot of Python code. Tailwind CSS and ShatCN. This is a pretty common pattern. ShatCN is a really good components library you can use. It just literally pulls down components that are standalone that you can add to your app. Sweet. Very easily. Oh, it even uses AWS Amplify. Once again, going back to my Amplify roots. I'll have to try this out. I'm really curious. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another question. Ramsey has the greatest questions. He's trying to stump us, but I've always had the sequential thinking server installed. I think that helped a lot, but since you don't have it, would you try it out and let us know how it compares?
Let me Google that. What is this? What is this? Do you know what this is, Eric?
No, I don't know.
Sequential server. Oh, sequential thinking server. Let's see what this is. That looks.
Sequential. I'm doing the same thing.
Oh. This looks neat.
Is it this one right here? Is this the same one? It's under an MCP server implementation that provides a tool for dynamic and reflective problem solving through a structured thinking process. I'm going to have to try this out. And by the way, a lot of tools you see out there have Claude desktop JSON snippets. Almost always you can just copy and paste this and work this in Kiro or QCLI. Sometimes you might have to make a change if you use environmental variables. You might have to move some environmental variables around. Because I believe right now with our MCP, you can't like externalize the environmental variables, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. No, looks interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to play with this today. Well, I have actual work to do. I'm going to play with this on Friday. Friday is my play day. So
I like that. Cool. Thank you, Allison. And then, yep, there it is. Very good to know. Sequential thinking. Oh, Kiro rocks. It helps me build a web app that would have taken me a few months. The spec server development is on point. Great job. Thank you, Vlads. It's always good to hear that people are using it and getting usefulness out of it.
Yeah.
Love to hear that. Yeah, there is so many great MCP servers here. I just need to try them all out and play around with them. I still think the two that I like are the best are the API and the documentation. But
they're super helpful. Those are some workhorses for sure.
Mm-hmm.
A thing that I didn't mention is that I also host a show called AWS She Builds Tech Skills, and we showcase women builders doing cool stuff with AWS. And in one of my previous shows, maybe like a month ago, I had some of the women who first started that repository from our PACE team, prototyping something. They were on the show and they talked a lot about MCPs and how they think about building them and when they use them and things like that. I think it's called MCP Revolution or something like that.
Wow.
So take a look at that and you'll get to hear from a few women who've built these tools and are using them in their daily work.
No, that's good. How do you find that show again?
It is on the AWS Events YouTube channel, and it's part of AWS She Builds Tech Skills. I'm pretty sure it's MCP Revolution. I did come up with the name with help from Q. So
I don't know about you. I'm always well, everybody check that out for sure. I'm always using Q or some agentic tool to help me come up with things.
Yeah.
Okay. Gusto has a question regarding shipping quality code. Do you have any tricks for making Kiro do less testing issues or prevent it from skip testing and mark them as completed anyways? What do you think, Candice?
When I see him do this, when I see Kiro, I try to use all of the pronouns to be inclusive with Kiro, but I've noticed that I've said he a lot today. So when she does this, I will call it out. I'll just call it out and I'll be like, you did not do that. And of course they say, you're absolutely right. One day I think they'll change that verbiage, but I just call them out. And when I see something that's happening again and again, I put that in my steering file. So I might put in fact, one of the agent hooks that I usually have is every time you write or update new code, create a unit test, run the unit test. And that way it's also in my rules file. So you've got it double watching.
Yeah, I love having those specs and then the unit and then also agents to help kind of automate some of those things. I've had one thing with agentic tools, as you know, and I put this in my tips earlier, is to always commit, often merge, and always track in your version control system. Like I use Git to just make sure that you like any changes you can roll back easily. You can do that in Kiro, but sometimes it's just easier to get revert or to check out an older version of your code to where before Kiro broke something, because it's just bound to happen. You know, it might go on some tangent and you may just agree to everything and all of a sudden it's not where you want it to be.
Yeah.
So having like a hook that automatically commits after every file change, or maybe manually, or after a few file changes, that could be helpful. Do you have the hooks that you set up with Git? What kind of cadence do you have it commit for you?
I actually don't have it on a regular cadence because I'm mostly just doing demos and I think it would get too chatty. But what I would do probably is after each feature, just like I would as a developer. Yeah.
All right, we got one more minute, and okay. Kiro likes to ignore files and not fix tests when you tell it to.
Say please. just kidding.
Let's go back to the police. If it does ignore test or steering files, obviously you shouldn't do that. You can certainly open up a thread on our Discord, update to the latest version of Kiro, maybe tweak the language in the steering files, check to make sure it's actually being added. There's some things you can try to do to try to troubleshoot that if it's occurring often. I have not seen that happen often. Maybe I've seen it like miss something, but sometimes like if I go in and I create a new steering file and I'm in the same chat window, sometimes I have to close that chat window, open a new chat window before it like recognizes the steering file. I've had that happen a couple of times, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Oh, and then Gusto mentioned another request to have enable automatic transcriptions on Kiro Weekly Show. We will add that to the list. I'll talk to Darko about that. I know he was looking into that too. Yeah, Ed, if you want to contact me, you can just, my DMs are open on X, so ERIKCH, or you can find me on Discord I think I'm just under Eric Hanchet, and we can get a hold of each other that way. So we're a minute over, so let's wrap it up. Anything you want to say, Candace, before any other shout outs, anything else?
No, thanks so much for letting me be on the show. MCPs are very cool, and I hope to get to come back another time. Or maybe you'll catch me on She Builds Mondays at 11:30 Central.
Awesome. Yes, everybody check out She Builds. And I 100%, I hope maybe we could do this again. Yeah. Make it a regular occurrence. That'd be awesome.
That'd be fun.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate it. Great questions today. Glad for all the demos. The demo gods were happy today. Everything worked out well. So thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.